So welcome back, you guys, and let's talk a little bit about editing right now. Color editing, right, is what we're talking about. Here we have one of my clients, Mia Coleman. She's outside holding some twinkly lights, and it looks like she's under a yellow light source, right? So she's under this yellow light source, and it doesn't look color accurate. Number one. Number two, it doesn't really look like I color graded it either. So I shot this raw, non-edited, straight out of camera, and this is the yellow light source that it's hitting it, right? Now, like most of you know, in the color lecture, if you've looked into it, you'll know that the color temperature, right, yellow and blue, they're on polar opposite sides of the scale. So if you add blue to this, it'll make it neutral. So the first thing we need to do is sort of balance out our photo. And what we're going to do is we're going to try to get it to have no color cast, right? And we're talking about the white balance. We want the white balance to be neutral, white light. And it looks like Auto did pretty well. I'm going through the different settings I have with my raw file to see if I can change the color, right? And what Photoshop or Lightroom is doing is they're trying to figure out what color was added to it to give it this cast, and what color it needs to add to like cancel out this color cast, right? So it was really yellow, so you'll notice the temperature went down to 2850, right? The temperature went really blue, and that's because I put it in on a tungsten setting. Here's me using the little dropper tool and placing it on Mia's shirt, like a neutral sort of area, and it feels like that's looking a little bit better, a little bit maybe to sort of how it looked. Once you can use that, you guys, I recommend auto white balancing your image right off the gate. Like take the photo and then use the little dropper tool right there by the white balance, and then drag your finger over something that should be sort of neutral gray or white, right? And once you do that, I didn't do this because I just went back to it like an idiot. But if you click the little checkbox on it, it doesn't. There's no like done or finished or whatever, right? You just click that little checkbox, and it'll solidify it, like it'll finalize the white balance. So here we've got neutral white light. This looks pretty good. And now we're going to go about like doing some of our color grade, right? And what we're trying to do is get this to look like Brandon Waffles, that guy, that sort of that pinky color and that teal blue on the background. And remember, yeah, dude, oh my God. Okay. We just went back. That's great. Okay, I absolutely failed and just went to like hold on a second. This is not the one I wanted to work on. What the heck, dude? There we go. Swipe back. Okay, so what we want to do is give her sort of like pinky orange tones and stuff, right? And we want to dump the contrast a little bit. And I'm gonna give you guys some measurements to start off with, and you can mimic mine, like my recipe that I'm using to edit this and color grade this. But it looks like, yeah, I sort of like my highlights a little high, right? So we're going to dump the contrast, -78, make the highlights a little higher. We're going to open the shadows up a little bit so you can see back into the shadows, right? And all we're doing is making this sort of a softer sort of image and less contrasty, right? The whites I'm going to push up like 24. The blacks I'm going to move up a little bit too. And that looks pretty good. Yeah, that looks sort of good. A good start, right? It's sort of a very soft, creamy, what do you call it, type of look. I'm gonna raise my temperature back up too because it looked a little bit bad. So let me get it back. She needs to be. Our goal is to have her sort of be orange, right, against a teal background. That's the color scheme that we were sort of looking for. So I may have pushed this a little bit too far in the tint. It's +29. It gives her a little more of a magenta look. I should probably pull that back to green. But I sort of like it. The two colors that are in our skin, right, are yellow and red. And yellow and red make orange. So that's literally the color we're looking for on in the background, right? We want that our orange skin, or the melanin, which is red and yellow, we want that to pop out the background. So on the orange, let's start with the red. And we're going to start playing with this in the color mix, that little color mix area. If you shift the hue in the color mix, right, and shift the saturation. We talked about this in lecture. Saturation is going to take some of the color out. Hue is going to shift the color a little bit, and luminance is going to make it brighter. So we're going to go ahead and make some tonal changes on our orange. We're going to shift the hue there. And again, we're in the color mix, you guys. That little icon, right, that's next to the color, above the temperature little place. We're going to move the luminance, we're going to move the saturation a little bit. Saturation, you'll notice I dumped down like 39, negative 39. Luminance I brought up because I want the oranges. Her skin is the orange, right? So if you bring the luminance up, that's bringing her skin up. And yellow is like her hair. So we're going to bring, desaturate that a little bit. And we're going to bring the brightness of that up just a hair too. I could have brought that up probably a little more. Green, there's not much green in this image at all. If there's green in your image, you can play with it a little bit. I just did that to see if there's any green and nothing moved, so whatever. Here's our aqua. And it doesn't look like there's any aqua really in this image either, but if there is any, it's desaturated now. Yep. And then let's see. Now we're going to work on the blues, and that's that sky behind us. And honestly, we want that, if we're going to have her sort of skin orangey, we want that sky behind her to be that sort of teal, that blue-green that sits across the color wheel. And it looks like we're close to getting it right about now. Move the blues. What else do we have to do? I'm going to desaturate a little bit. It does look a little bit too bright compared to her skin. So I'm going to drop the saturation a little bit. Looks pretty good. Luminance. I bring the luminance up just a hair maybe. Plus 40. Yeah, that's starting to look like I want. Here's the purples. Looks like there's a little bit of purple in the sky. So I'm going to drop the hue of that and make it more teal, because that's sort of what I want, is just the teal. So I'll make it negative 60 on the hue. And again, these numbers, you guys, aren't going to be exact to yours. It's going to depend on what light you shot under, what time of day, what time of dusk you shot, how blue your sky was, right? So these numbers are just sort of a starting point, okay, to get this sort of look and to color grade like this. Yeah, this looks pretty good. I mean, I'm sort of happy with how it turned out. Do I want to add anything more to this? I'm going to have my tools down the side over here. I'm going to drop the exposure a little bit because I think it should be a little bit darker. I think that looks better. It looks a little more moody, right? If you drop the exposure just a little bit. Those are my other settings still. In the light, under the light tab. Let's see, what else do we need? I might add some texture maybe, or some clarity. Clarity is a little more contrast since we lost all of our contrast. I also might vignette it a little bit. So let's go down. There's sharpening. We don't really need sharpening. Color noise reduction, we don't need that crap. Let's remove chromatic aberration. That's important. Let's do that. And we'll enable lens corrections too, which lens correction generally just offsets distortion, you guys, like wide angle distortion. So it looks like there's my texture, my clarity, and my vignette. Add some texture a little bit. Add a little bit of clarity. That's just a little bit of a contrast boost, and I'm going to vignette it and draw our eye into her. It's a cheap old school way of getting you to, if you don't know lighting, you use a vignette to get people to look at the subject, right? So sort of an old freaking hack that a lot of people used back in the day, and people still like vignettes. So yeah, it's still in there. So this looks pretty good. Yeah. Thinking this is about done. I don't see anything else I need to do to this. And yeah, I think we've accomplished the effect. We've looked and found someone's work online, Brandon Waffle. We sort of liked his stuff, and we basically knocked off his look, right? By knowing color. Yeah, I don't know. We're not done, dude. So I'm looking at the color on my monitor, like on my computer monitor. On my phone, it looks great. But what I'm seeing right now is not exactly the teal I wanted. So I need to flex this a little bit and move this a touch, because this isn't working for me. Like, this is not the sort of the teal I wanted. I want a little more teal, which is a little more like that. A little more like blue, like greenish, like aqua, like blue green. That looks way better. This looks way better. Yeah. Yeah, now I think we're done, right? The background needs to be sort of a bluish green. Let's desaturate a little bit so it's not so poppy, because she's sort of a subdued palette. Let's make him like, let's see. Yeah, I think that looks good. This looks good. This is done, right? Finished product. You guys should look something like this.